Well, this is a video I've wanted to do for quite some time now to illustrate the journey of home ownership and the wealth that you can grow from it. So I'm going to use my personal journey from buying my first place all the way to where I am now. I'm going to go through step by step so you can kind of see the moves that I have personally made as a real estate agent. And hopefully then you can also see kind of the timeline and what to expect in the future if you're just maybe getting into the market or you're thinking about possibly upsizing. But first, as always, please remember to click and subscribe. We're trying to grow this channel up to 1,000 followers. And yeah, that blue bag back there is going to be given away with a bunch of swag when we get to that mark. Please also remember to hit the like button. Hitting the like button helps get this information out to other people that can then also think about turning $13,000 into I don't know how many of millions in the future. So where does it start? Well, I lived at home until 21 years old. And the reason I moved out is because my parents started charging me rent. And a quick side note here, if you do have kids living at home, they're 18 years or older, you need to be charging them rent, and being charged rent actually helped me get into my first property. And if you want to go back, I've actually explained that in this video here of exactly that process. So after some time of moving out, I actually lived with my brother for a few years. It was time to purchase my first place. And as I mentioned in that last video, that actually helped me get up to my down payment, and I was able to purchase my first place when I was only 25 years old. So that first place I bought was a 2-bed, 2-bath condo at that time in Guildford. I bought it in April 2005. And at that time, get this, the purchase price for a 2-bed, 2-bath condo, I only paid $138,000. Now, at the time, it was absolute crazy because just a couple years before, my brother bought a fully detached house for $167,000. So the market actually shot up then at that point. But the point of this little segment of this story is get in as soon as you can, because prices will always increase and they'll increase faster than you think. So at that time, you had to put down 10% on a property. So at $138,000, my down payment was $13,800. Again, go back and watch that previous video. I told you about how I came up with that money. But I lived in that particular property for 4 years. And I want to mention here that living in a property for 4 years is actually the average. So don't be afraid to, if you can, get into that 4-year mortgage product instead of the 5-year. Usually 5 years is the easiest to qualify for, but 4-year will often be a lower rate. Don't be afraid of getting that lower rate, because most people don't last in their first or second place for more than about 4 years. But a lot happened in that 4 years. My girlfriend at the time became my fiance. My best friend in the whole world convinced me that working a regular job for somebody else wasn't the best path for me. And he actually talked me into getting my real estate license like him, which I'm ever so thankful for. Both the support of my now wife, fiance at that time, and my best friend to get me into this new industry. So shout out John Bai. So in June 2009, my bride-to-be and I thought, you know what, this is time to move on. We wanted to get some more space, and you know, we're getting married and all that stuff. So we wanted to move on to that next step. Well, here's where it got kind of interesting. I don't know if everybody on this channel remembers, but in October, November 2008, the financial world crashed. So I actually missed the market. In 2008, the condo that I purchased for $138, they were selling for like $225. So there was a lot of equity there. However, we didn't move in 2008. We moved in 2009. Eventually, I had to sell that property for $206,000. So not a bad little profit here. I mean, I could have sold for more, but I didn't. So, you know, you just got to play the long-term game. I turned $13,000 at that point into about $68,000 minus fees with a little bit of savings, and managed to squeak into my next home, which was a 2,000 square foot townhouse. So we purchased that property in June, moved in August. We paid $356,900 for that townhouse at that time, which is not even a 1-bedroom condo anymore. This is my, hey, hurry up and buy type of speech. We ended up buying that property with 20% down, and that 20% down at that time was $71,380. And then there's also some fees and transfer taxes on top of that. And that townhouse was the worst real estate investment of my life. Because we actually ended up selling that property for $385,000. So it's a $30,000 profit, But after fees and taxes and expenses and all that stuff, well, that $30,000 profit's basically wiped out. But I was a good little saver, and so was my wife. She got some raises over the years. Myself, I got a new career that paid a lot more. So we were able to actually pay down extra on a mortgage and save a bunch more money in order for another 4-year period to get to that next step. Now, during the 4-year period of living in a townhouse, I was actually able to purchase another investment property, but that doesn't relate to my personal residence story. So I'm going to kind of leave that. I mean, we made great money on that rental property, and it was fantastic for, I think, the 5 or 6 years that we had it. But I'm going to leave that out because it has actually none of that money actually went into my principal residence or came out of my principal residence. So now we're in 2013. It's June 24th. I think I was actually up south of Soyuz somewhere, and we actually sold our property while on vacation in an effort to get to our forever home. And we only wanted to be a couple blocks away. And get this, it was a 5-week close. So it got a little dicey at one point. And that's where we ended up in here today. This is our forever home. Well, not if my wife has anything to say, or at least I hope it's our forever home. But let's get back to the story about purchasing this home a little bit. So it was on the market for quite some time, and the market wasn't that hot in 2013. So actually within a couple of days of selling our our townhouse, the home that we're currently in saw a price reduction. And this was a house that my wife absolutely loved. I mean, I didn't mind it so much myself, but she absolutely loved it. And she wanted to be in it, but it was above our budget. So when the price change came in, we knew we had to pounce. So the house was originally listed at $739. It dropped down to about $725. And then when we saw that price reduction, we came in and negotiated basically that same day and bought the property for $701,000. Now, we only had 5 weeks to move, so we actually negotiated an even shorter close here. We ended up with a 17-day bridge. We were able to put 20% down. That's $140,000, $200 plus transfer taxes on top as well. So that was in 2013. But then in 2016, and again, here in 2021, we've seen these massive increases. And now homes within my neighborhood here, I'm on the west side of Cloverdale, are selling for 1.45 all the way up to 1.75, if you can believe it or not. So I can conservatively say that $13,000, $13,800 that I originally put into that 2-bedroom condo in Guildford has now turned into a conservative $1.6 million. And remember, here in Canada, we're all capital gains free on our principal residence. So I would say that almost $14,000, once you roll it into the 1.6, I mean, where else can you make about 115 times your initial investment? And sure, of course, there's some mortgage left, and that's not all just equity, but the mortgage is a lot smaller than most people buying today, obviously, because I've had it for longer. That's actually one of the biggest determiners of wealth, believe it or not. It's not all of these things that you might hear in the news about where the person's coming from or the privileges they have. The number one determiner is actually age. So the longer you're in the market, the more chance you have to grow your wealth. As an example, now we were able to pull out about $100,000 worth of equity out of this home. And just recently, I purchased a condo not too far away for $475,000. So I put down the $100,000. Well, that condo is already, the comparables this month are selling between $550 and $570. So that's kind of a side note, but it shows that if you grow enough equity within your principal residence, you can actually use that equity to then take it out and grow more equity. So Steve, why the hell are you telling me about your own personal story? Well, it's specifically to illustrate the fact that, I mean, real estate is where most common people are going to get their wealth, right? It just is. And it also is to illustrate the fact that you should move up when you can. If you can move up, you will get more growth, because that property that I actually purchased originally, even though it was $138,000, it's seen massive growth, but they're worth between $450,000, maybe $500,000 these days. And if I was still there, I mean, my mortgage would be paid off. It would be great, but my net worth would probably be around that $450,000, or at least that's all I would have in real estate, right? So what I'm trying to say is, when you do have the chance to move up, you probably should, because it will grow your wealth even faster. My personal journey has been 16 years now in real estate, not selling real estate for other people, but owning real estate. And that's been over 5 different properties. And sure, there have been ups and there have been downs. Even the townhouse that I sold at one point, they were selling higher. And unfortunately, we hit a bit of a low spot. But you can't outsave the market. And when you hit those big years, the growth you're going to see, I mean, you can stay in that little house that you're comfortable with, or a little condo or townhouse or whatever. But if you can, get up to the next step, because that is likely the best way for the average person to grow wealth. So I hope this little story has actually illustrated the fact that you too can grow wealth just by getting into the market, and you should probably do so as soon as you possibly can and upgrade whenever possible. Thanks so much for watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel for more information like this. Hit that notification bell and the like button for the YouTube algorithm. And now that we're at the end of the video, if you're still here, I'd love you to take a second, go down below, type in the comments how long you've been in the real estate market as an owner. Also, how many properties you've owned, and what you think your estimated wealth might be as a result. Well, you may not want to do that in the comments, but hey, I'd love to hear how long you've been an owner and how many properties you've owned. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in a couple of days.